Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that accompany becoming a new parent. I'm delighted to welcome special guest, Catherine OBrien. Catherine is a licensed marriage and family therapist, the author of Happy with Baby, Essential Relationship Advice When Partners Become Parents, founder of happybaby.com, the California State co-coordinator for Postpartum Support International, and she helped establish A Mother's Heart in Sacramento, where mothers with perinatal and anxiety disorders can go to receive support. And she participates in the Sacramento Maternal Mental Health Collaborative. You can reach Catherine at her website, happywithbaby.com, and on social media at happywithbaby. And I'll include those links in the description. Welcome, Catherine. I'm delighted that you could join with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited to be able to talk to you. You are amazing. I was trying to shrink your bio into drinkable, and it's like, but I can't leave this part out and I can't leave that part out because you do so many amazing, incredible things. And you're so passionate about this journey of becoming a parent and the challenges that come with it. So I'm curious about your story. What led you into this field and makes you feel like this is so important?
Well, so I was a licensed marriage and family therapist when I got married, when we got pregnant, and I did not put into, I guess I did not put much thought looking back now. And I laugh about it now, though it didn't seem funny at the time, right? Like thought into like really how challenging it was going to be to bring in a baby home. Like that my husband and I have a great relationship. We were together quite some time before we had kids. So I thought, how hard could this be? We want this baby. We're excited about it. We have the means to take care of this baby. And then we brought him home and everything seemingly fell apart, right? Like I was so exhausted. We weren't communicating in the ways we always had communicated. I was, frustrated with him. He was frustrated with me. And it just felt like all this like tension and stuff. And I just was like, how was I unprepared? Like I work with couples all the time. How was I so unprepared that this would be difficult for me too? And then, going to different moms groups and listening to other new moms share their stories, I was like, oh, this isn't just my struggle. This is like a universal struggle. And I just felt like I wanted other people to be better prepared than I was. And so that just became my passion to like, share tips and tools and things that the hard way I learned things to help new parents learn things.
Love that. I love it on so many different levels. First of all, I'm just thinking about the idea about here you are, you're trained, you have all this education, but boy, there is something about parenting that you can't learn in a book. You kind of have to learn by doing. And yet by putting some of those tips and tools into a book, you can help the next generation, the next people who are facing this. And I'm so glad. And you talk a lot about relationships and how that affects. And I had a couple of thoughts on that. One is I have, unfortunately, some friends, they've been married for a long time, between 20 and 25 years. And it's right about the time when the kids are starting to move away to college or work or whatever their situation is. And then all of a sudden they get divorced, because they had separated themselves sometime along the way. And it was the kids that were keeping them together, or they were staying together for the kids. And so maintaining that relationship is so, so important. And years ago, I saw a thing on social media where this man, he was on his third wife, and he was complaining about women and said, what is it about a woman when she has a baby and how all of her attention is on the baby and she forgets about you. And when I read it, I thought, oh, I cannot believe this selfish jerk is, he's, marrying a woman, having a baby with her, dumping her. And when my husband, his response was, yeah, that really is hard, but put up with it. And I thought, wait, what? You're sympathizing with the jerk. So then we had to have a conversation about, maybe I could have done better. at
Right.
maintaining the communication. Because man, as a mom, when you have that new little baby who's 100% dependent on you and it takes all your time and
Yeah.
all of your mental and emotional energy, I did not realize that he was taking a back seat
Yeah.
because he took it quietly. Maybe some would have complained more. I don't know. All right, so teach me right now, but what could I have done better?
Yeah. Well, you know, you rate everything you just said, I've heard so many times, right? Like, and it's like universal in a lot of ways. And so what could you have done better? I don't know that it's all up to you to have done something better, right? So I think that there's the piece right there. Like we have to work together, and that's my key. Is like we need to check in and we need to talk to each other about how we're each feeling, because I know as a mom, like, and I was a nursing mom and, you know, formula feeding mom, like I did all the, you know, the bottles, like all this stuff all the time, right? And it's like you're touched out, you're like so spent from doing all this stuff. It's like the last thing I want to do is now have to take care of my grown husband. I don't want to have to do that either, you know. But then
Yeah,
it's also, but then he has needs, but then I also have needs. So how do we make sure that we're each getting our own needs met, so that we can then work together as a couple, so then that we could be the best partners? So
I
like in
appreciate.
my book, I
Yes.
talk about like the 3 questions. And that first question is, what am I doing to make sure that I'm taking care of myself? But then also part of that is like, and then how am I supporting my partner to make sure that they're taking doing things to take care of themselves, right? So then the second question is, and then what are we doing to make sure that we're connecting with each other? And I think those definitely go hand in hand, and it's hard to connect and spend time together if we're not, you know, taking care of ourselves and doing the things that we need to do for ourselves. Like, I mean, maybe periodic, you know, for a short period of time, but not sustainably ongoing. And then the third question is, what am I doing to bond and, you know, connect with my child? And that is from now until, I imagine, after they move out of the house. But, you know, like my kids are older now, they're 8 and 12. And you know, I still want to connect and bond with my kids and do
I
those
hope
things,
so.
even though I'm like running errands and making them dinner that they don't eat and all those things, you know? So
Those are pretty normal. So I love those three aspects that you included yourself first.
yes.
And sometimes as women, we have a
Yeah.
tendency to care for all the other people and
Because we are caring for the
try to
baby.
take care of
Yeah.
everybody's needs. And then there is nothing left. And
Yeah.
just we can fall apart.
Right.
We're just exhausted. So I love that you put that not only on the list, but first. And
Yeah.
then relationship with your spouse, your husband, it matters. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like that man that I thought was a jerk and that my husband sympathized with. You do have to make sure that you maintain the relationship with
Yes.
him and that he matters. And then of
Yeah.
course the
But
bond.
it's hard to do that, right? Like it's hard to do that. It's hard to give him anything when we're empty, when we don't, you know, you always hear that, like, you got to fill your cup, you got to put the oxygen mask on. And I know those get overplayed, and self-care gets overplayed, but there is a piece of like, what are you doing to keep a sense of yourself and maintain your own needs so that you can put towards this? Because your children depend on it. They need you, you know, it's, if you have a better relationship with your partner, it makes things easier, right? For you and for them.
Absolutely. All right.
Mhm,
So do you have some tips? Because I'm thinking when you're in that spot and you're feeling
mhm,
so overwhelmed,
mhm,
what kinds of little things can you do to help fill that cup?
mhm. Like the little things, right? Because it's like the big grand gestures, right? I think are important. Getting a massage, you know, whatever you like to do, go get your hair done, go play basketball with friends, whatever it is, like those are important too. But I also think it's like the little things. It's you know, making sure if the baby is sleeping, and they always say like, oh, sleep, you know, when the baby's sleeping. And that's hard to do, right? It's hard to turn off our minds, and we think like, oh, we got to do all these chores because the chores are endless. But I think I always tell them like, rest. Just because there are chores and there's always going to be chores and they're going to be there when the baby gets up, but you can still like sit down, you can lay on the couch. I mean, ideally, you know, it's not a screen type activity because that keeps our minds going and stuff, but something that you can kind of unwind to. Maybe you're reading a book or flipping through a magazine. I don't know if people still get magazines, but something like that. But something like that's relaxing, or maybe you're coloring in a book, or maybe you're doing some stretches or something like that that's like relaxing and restful for you. um, it's also making sure that you're getting some sort of like movement and like activity that doesn't feel like extraneous, but that feels like good to your body, like I mentioned, like the stretching or maybe going for a walk. And that can be something you do with your baby or your children or whatever, or you put on some music and you dance around, something that like feels good to you, like that you're like, oh, this, like I like listening to music, and putting that on and moving around the house makes it everything feel better to do. Like cleaning my kitchen is so much better with good music than it is without it.
I know, right?
So so like things like that that like feel good to you, like don't stop doing the things that you enjoy doing, and that maybe you're tweaking it a bit because now your children are small, but as they get older, those things will be easier to do again and do in fuller form. And hopefully, maybe it's something that they'll do with you as they get older, which is fun.
I love that. And as you're listing these things, not the massage and the playing basketball, those you have to leave the house, but those
Yes.
other things where you think, oh, I have so much to do, but we
Hmm.
can have at least 5 minutes to sit and
Yes.
see that magazine. And I love that you mentioned dancing. Like a song lasts
Yes.
3 minutes. And
Yeah.
we have time to listen to a song or to dance to a
Yeah.
song. And that gives that energy and that
Yeah.
happiness back in so that you can do the other thing.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's so hard when there's so much to do. But if we can at least take 5 minutes
Yeah.
in that nap time, that's just for ourselves, I
Right.
think it will benefit everyone.
Right, right. And I always like I encourage, the clients that I work with, and the new parents I work with, like it's like making those lists of like, if I had 5 minutes, if I have 15 minutes, if I have 30 or more, like what are the different things I would want to do? Because sometimes we get that time and then we're like, you find yourself like scrolling through your phone on social media, and you're like, oh well, that didn't feel good. And yeah, I didn't accomplish anything. Sometimes it does, but most of the time the feedback I get is like, that didn't feel good, and I just wasted 15, 20 minutes. Whereas like, here's my list of things, like I know these things make me feel good to do, and here's my little reminder of like, hey, let's do something on here versus something that depletes me more, or I come out of it feeling worse. So
Wow, I love that. And social media can sometimes make things feel worse because
yes.
people put their very best selves out there, and you
Yes.
see their, highlight reel, and what you're
Right.
living is your blooper reel, and you compare
Yes.
the two, and then you think, this is hard, and it seems like everyone else is doing it so easy. And
Right.
it's not true. It's hard for everyone.
Oh yeah.
There's
Oh
different
yeah.
kinds of hard. There's different levels of hard depending on lots of variables, but it's hard for everyone.
Oh yeah, it totally is. And we all have like the things that are hard for us, and then the things that aren't hard for us. And it's, it looks different for everybody.
Right. And isn't that wonderful that we have strengths? Sometimes we
Hmm.
forget our strengths because we're comparing our weaknesses to somebody else's,
Right.
but we do
Right.
all have strengths. There's something
Yes.
we can do well. There's something that we can do. Well, can we hear some tips again? That was fantastic. So
Okay.
we're taking care of ourselves,
Yes.
and let's work on our communication. What are some good things that we can do to help our husband not feel lost
Yeah.
and abandoned?
Uh, well, I think first of all, it's checking in with each other, like making that time to have that conversation, because I think we can get so busy, and even as our kids get older, like we're busy. We have a million things to do. We have jobs, we have businesses, we have you know meals to cook, we have errands to run, we have places to go, right? And so it's like, unless I'm making like a conscious effort, like, hey, we need to check in on a regular basis. Like I know, the time for my husband and I every day seems to be, between dinner and before bedtime, and the kids are off, playing or doing something. Like that's kind of our time that we'll like kind of check in, like, how was your day? Like, what's going on? And, kind of go over like, hey, like, are you still, taking them to this appointment or whatever it is, like these little mini check-ins with each other are like really important. But then also like scheduling those dates and putting them on the calendar which is not always a popular thing to have to be like scheduling a date with your own partner. But I think especially when you have kids, if you don't put it on the calendar, it's not going to happen, because like your schedule fills in with all the other things if you don't put it on there. So it's like having, I like to say like a regular, like, hey, this is our, Saturday night dinner date, or, a Thursday afternoon, lunch date, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be around a meal, but like something where, hey, we do this regularly. We know it's going to happen. And all we have, decide what we're going to do. And, maybe we have a sitter that we have on repeat or whatever, or like, we know this is the time they go to bed. So this is the time, or they're taking their nap, and this is the time we like turn off our phones and our, undivided attention with each other. And maybe we try something new. Maybe we, make a meal together. Maybe we, play a game or build a puzzle or whatever that is that we like to do, but we do something together
That
that
is
we enjoy.
magical.
Mm-hmm.
Those simple steps, making it a priority,
Mm-hmm.
scheduling a time to be able to connect, and then
Yeah.
scheduling a date once a week.
Yeah.
People did that, that would keep the relationship strong and healthy. And then there wouldn't be that situation when the kids move out where people fall apart. And then it would
Right.
be, yay, now we can do more dates a week.
Yeah.
We can have more chances to talk and connect and to do
Yeah.
things.
Right.
So brilliant, brilliant. Isn't
Right.
it funny how simple things sound and yet they're tricky to do?
Yes. And
So
it takes, and if you're not in the habit of doing it, it can feel awkward and not easy. And like, you have to like get in the practice of doing it again, because I think that one of the reasons we struggled so much is like, we had an abundance of time together. Like we had every evening together prior to having a kid. And when our son was first born, like we couldn't even seem to be able to eat dinner until like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, because it's like we had the worst time trying to get him down for bed or whatever. And it'd be like, oh, we're trying to wait to have dinner together. And by the time we're eating, we're starving. And then he's up anyway, he's woken again. And, it's like interrupted, and we just never seemed to have like downtime together, and it was really, really hard. And we weren't used to that, because before we talked all the time, and we hung out and we went places and we traveled and we tried new things and all the stuff. And then it was like that was all gone, and so we had to like make a conscious effort and figure out how to do this with a baby.
that's fantastic. It is challenging when your schedule is wrapped around a tiny person. I was
Mhm,
talking with my kids, they're grown and some of them
mhm,
have kids themselves, and
uh-huh.
how you're just, you think, man, when I get to be an adult, I'm going to be in charge of everything.
Yes.
I'm going to be the boss. And then you have a kid and all of a sudden you're not the boss. You thought you were the boss because
Yeah.
your whole world is wrapped around this tiny person,
Yeah.
all of their needs. And my son said, yeah, I'll tell my kids when they grow up, yeah, you already had your turn. You don't get to be the boss anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't realize we were the boss. We just took
Yeah.
it all for granted. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
It
So
is.
things can be super, super challenging when everything is flowing normally. Like
Yeah.
we have a normal pregnancy, we have a normal
Yeah.
baby, we have normal things. And then on top of that, sometimes things don't go normally. So
Right.
sometimes they used to call it baby blues or postpartum depression, and now it has a different name, PMAD, perinatal or postpartum mood and anxiety disorder. So do you
Yeah.
have some suggestions? I know I've had friends who dealt with that, and it was really hard because then in
Hmm.
addition to your scheduling and all these things that we've
Hmm.
talked about, you don't feel good.
No, no. Yeah. And so, yeah. So baby blues it's, there's still baby blues, right? And that's anything, but it kind of like, if people are like, oh, I just don't feel right. And they're like, oh, I have the baby blues. Like maybe it's a light depression or whatever. But really, baby blues is anything the first 2 weeks after a baby's born. And it's like up to 90% of moms can exhibit some sort of like, it's like the fluctuation in like hormones, or they're not really sure, but like, it's a change. But the predominant feeling is happiness, but then there'll be like a crash, and maybe all of a sudden you find yourself weeping or crying or whatever. But it's usually, it only lasts up to 2 weeks postpartum.
Okay, so
And
that
then
would
so
be
if
considered
you're
normal.
feeling like you're still feeling like, "God, I don't really quite feel myself, maybe I'm emotional, maybe I'm kind of angry, or like angrier than I should be at my partner." Like that's the one I feel like women will be like, "Well, I'm not mad at my baby. It's just my husband. I'm just so like have so much anger towards him." Well, then there's probably a little bit more going on besides the fact like he's not doing what you feel like he should be doing. Like there's a lot of feeling and emotion or behind it. And so yeah, so now like postpartum depression, it all falls under like the umbrella of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, and that's anything from like and it's prenatal or postpartum anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder. It could be post-traumatic stress disorder, like maybe you've experienced a trauma um, during pregnancy or postpartum. And it's like while you're pregnant, and you can have any of these while you're pregnant or up to a year after your baby's born. And some moms will come to me and their baby's like 2 or 3 years old, and it's like untreated. Like they never got the treatment they need because they kept thinking like, oh, this will go away, or eventually my baby will sleep and I'll feel better, or so it's like a range of emotions, right? Like there's anxiety, maybe for some women, like it's not like they're depressed and they can't get out of bed, but maybe like I imagine like kind of like rageful or angry. A lot of anger can kind of sometimes look like it can be depression, and just like it's. And so I always like tell women, because they'll be like, "Oh, I told my doctor and they told me it was normal," or I told my friend and they're like, "Oh, all new moms feel this way." And then they'll be, "But I still don't feel right." And I said, then it's probably not right. Like, like this doesn't feel normal. It's not normal for me, but it doesn't feel normal. Then I always encourage them to continue to look for support until you get it. And there are so many resources out there, like Postpartum Support International, like their website, postpartum.net. They have tons of resources. And, I think if I say a benefit out of the pandemic, if there's a benefit, is like there are so many more online resources, especially for people that live in more rural areas that didn't have access to like therapists. Like now there's more, therapists all over doing, virtual therapy, and there's like, online groups and all sorts of stuff. So there are like resources out there. So it's like reach out and find somebody if they're not in your area, hopefully close by or something like that, to get the support you need. Because the thing about it is that it's common. It's the number one complication of childbirth is
Oh, really?
perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, but it's also very treatable. And if, like the sooner you can get help, the sooner you can start to feel better. And, and it can look like therapy. It could look like support group. It could maybe you need medication, maybe you don't, but there's like so many different ways to like treat it and work at getting the support that you need. So it's like, don't, like if someone tells you like, oh, it's normal and you don't feel it's normal, then find somebody that will help you find the support that you need. And I think that's a huge piece of it is there's not enough support out there for parents. And I think I think I see that more. Think it has been highlighted now since the pandemic, because there was a period of time where there was like nothing. I mean, there was parents that weren't even being able to have people in the delivery room with them. Like it's just there's not enough support. Like I know here, I live in Sacramento, California. There's a lot of people that like move here and they don't have family support around or whatever. And it's just them and their partner, and they don't have anyone to help them. And, I think having a good, strong relationship with your partner is important, but it's also so hard for just you and your partner to do all of it, right? Like we need the extra community to support systems in place. And so it's key to finding that, and how do you develop that and increase that. I feel like I'm on all over the place with this because I do get very passionate about this, because I feel like people don't want to talk about it, though more and more people do talk about it. And I think that's so important, and it's becoming less of the taboo that I think there used to be around it. But also I think part of the problem is we just need more support, and we need to reach out to new parents and like provide more services so that, because it's being a new parent is no joke. We've been doing it forever, but it's not easy by any means.
No, it's not. And I appreciate you talking about this today and bringing it up. It's almost like you're giving people permission
Mm-hmm.
to take care of their needs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually need someone else's permission, but sometimes
Right.
we think we do,
Right.
because you can get that idea of, oh, this is normal. Oh,
Yeah.
just toughen up and just
Yeah.
handle it. If you were a real woman, you could do this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
it's like all those other women seem to be doing it. Or then you hear the story of like, oh, this woman bounced back after 6 weeks postpartum and she's got the body back and she's back up, like makes it look easy. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Like I was watching a show recently and there was a storyline around that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I hope no new moms are watching this. Like I was just like cringing inside because I'm like, I hope no new moms are watching this because that is not.
what was the message of the story?
No, it was like a side story or whatever, but it was like, oh, this mom, like, her body bounced back and everyone's like, oh, you look so wonderful. You make having a baby look so easy. And, she was, ready and happy and going back to work and all this stuff. And it's like, and, it's not easy and it is challenging. And I think it's more difficult than sometimes the stories that we hear are. And what do you need? What kind of support do you need to make it better for you?
Yes, I like that. So let's go back to someone comes up with the question and says, man, I'm having a hard time. This is so hard. And when we say, oh, that's normal, I think what we're meaning is you are not crazy.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You've now joined this community of people who are doing hard but wonderful things. Yeah. So if someone's going to take that response and think, oh, that means I'm supposed to handle it. Yeah. We could say, oh, this is normal, but is there, some support that you need, or how are you feeling, or what would be?
I would just say, like, I would be like, what is the hard? You're like, what's the hardest part for you?
Oh, I like,
what's the hardest struggle for you? And it's like, oh my gosh, like I just can't seem to get any sleep, or I can't seem to get a grasp of any of the chores I have on my list, or like I just like miss going out on dates with my partner. I don't know what it is. And then it's like, and then if they tell me and I get a sense of them, be like, well, what if I came over and I watched your baby while you guys went out on a date? Or you know what? Like I would love to come over and while you take a nap with the baby, I'll do your dishes for you. Like, because I feel like it's so hard for someone to say, like, can you do this for me? Like people don't want to say that. But if you can go, hey, this is what I'm willing to do. So I'm going to now offer you what I have in my schedule to do and what I'm capable of doing, and maybe what a strength is for me. I want to help you out. Then let me help you out in some way. Or why don't you come over and rest at my house so you don't have to look at, the house that's in a disarray or whatever, like let me come make you lunch and you can rest here or whatever, why I take care of things for a little bit or whatever it is, like give them options, give them, solutions and provide that support. Cause I think that's really what we need. We need to be like seen. We need to feel supported and feel like we're not in this by ourselves either.
And I think when you just asking those questions help somebody to be able to be seen, and then your compassionate responses of where can I reach in? And I love the idea of offering, this is what I'm available to give, because we also maybe don't have time to take care of everybody's needs. And so, but maybe in addition to those wonderful things, and there are online resources, and did you know, and here's a place that you can turn to, and something that you can do. So all of those things are fantastic. I know when I was holding a little one and I was at church and babies, I'm tired and frustrated and all the things. There were different ways that people would ask that I responded differently to. So one person would say, do you want me to hold your baby? And in my mind, that meant, you think I can't handle this? And so you think I need a break? No, I got this. And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. But I didn't answer snottily, but I might have thought something.
You're like, are you judging me right now?
I'm fine. But when someone would come up and say, oh, can I hold your baby for a minute? Then I thought, oh, I am doing you a favor because you love my baby. And it's not because, you want to feel that warm, sweet softness and look at that sweet little face. And it's not that you think that I'm competent.
Yeah.
Such a simple little twist of,
Yes.
but I have noticed that the way that it's presented did make a difference to me. Hopefully
It
I would be able to handle it either way. But at the time,
well, it depends on how tired you are, I think, how well we can handle certain
yeah,
things.
that's true. I can get tired every day.
But because I think that's key. Like no new parent or no parent in general, right? Like I have a few years under my belt now. I don't want anyone ever to say something in a way that makes me feel like you think I'm not doing a good job as a parent or you think I can't handle it. And I think especially as a new parent, you're on a minute by minute, you're learning something new, So it's like, and then you're looking at me acting as if I'm not handling things well, or the way you question or the way you're asking me something makes me think that you think I'm not handling it well, which is really, really hard.
So as a person who's trying to offer support, we need
Yeah.
to be a little bit careful and make sure that we are validating and
Yes.
supporting and empowering rather
Right.
enabling or making someone feel like they are not good.
Yeah.
So all of these points are so good. And I appreciate what you're doing so much because parenting matters.
Yes.
How a child feels at the beginning
Mhm.
determines whether they feel like the world is safe or if it's
Mhm.
dangerous. And boy, we need kids that start out feeling safe
Yeah.
because there are lots of reasons for us to feel like it's not safe.
Right.
Have
Right.
that firm, loving start is so important. And I appreciate all the awesome
Yeah.
things that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for visiting with me today.
Thank you so much again for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by actress Drew Barrymore. She said, I didn't have postpartum depression the first time, so I didn't understand it because I was like, I feel great. The second time, I was like, oh, whoa, I see what people talk about now. I understand. It's a different type of overwhelming with the second one. And I really got under the cloud. If you're struggling with PMAD or any of the challenges of becoming a new parent, know that you're not alone. And there are things that you can do to find peace, confidence, joy, and help in this grand adventure called parenting. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Linda's Corner, please share and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. I also invite you to check out my nonprofit, Hope for Healing, at the website hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free ebooks, free audiobooks, and other free resources to help increase happiness, build confidence and self-esteem, strengthen relationships, manage stress, and calm feelings of depression and anxiety. I also invite you to grab a copy of one of my books, like Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, or Amazon bestseller, You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. See you next time on Linda's Corner.